Recording in progress.
Yeah, I'll call the meeting of Morrow County Commission work session to order. And our first item is 2A, presentation and consideration of introducing a transit lodging tax slash tourism improvement. Just, I don't know, who's the lead on this? Vince?
Yeah. You want me to try?
Yeah, come on.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Vince Guerrero. I'm the Assistant County Administrator and got two guests here and I'll let them introduce themselves.
Good afternoon. Thanks for taking the time to listen to our information on bringing forth or possibly bringing forth the transit lodging tax from Morrow County. I'm Carrie Walshley with Morrow County Tourism, and I have asked our Executive Director with Eastern Oregon Visitors Association, Elena Carollo, to be here today, and she will do a follow-up after Vincent and I kind of tag team on our presentation. So.
Hi, excited to be here. So you'll hear more from me in a little bit.
So we've been researching and doing a lot of chatting amongst ourselves as well as with others regarding transient lodging tax from the county. There are multiple counties and other entities within Oregon, of course, that do transient lodging taxes, as well as TIDs, which are tourism, what's it called? TID.
Tourism
Improvement
Improvement District.
Yeah,
Yes, thanks,
you.
Blank.
And then there are other taxes that are like a room tax, some entities do, but they're all very similar to a TLT. TLT tax, if you want to go to the second cell or second slide.
Oh.
So this basically defines what a transit lodging tax is. This is taken directly from Oregon's website regarding what TLTs are. So TLT is a fee imposed on travelers for short-term stays, less than 30 consecutive days, and it would be a tax associated with RV parks, campgrounds, rentals, B&Bs, things like that. There are different percentages, sometimes flat rates, sometimes percentages, like I mentioned, that are imposed on those daily rates or daily stays. A transient lodging tax can boost the local economy by providing a visitor-funded revenue stream for infrastructure. So at the moment, there's a 70-30 split within Oregon. Pretty soon, I think at the beginning of the year,
January 1st.
January 1st, it's going to go to a 50-50 split. But from what I gather, we could potentially keep a 70-30 split if we chose to, versus the 50-50. So
Vince, that 30 split is split between and for what?
So the state requires that the 70% stay within a tourism purposes, basically. The 30% can go to the county general fund or whatever the county wanted to use the funds for. Or the entity, I should
This
say.
last legislative session, several counties wanted a bigger piece of that pie.
Correct.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's what brought forth the change.
Backfill their general fund.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you want to go to slide 3, if you want to go ahead.
Sure. So why consider a lodging tax? So many counties within the state and municipalities, this is why they've considered a lodging tax. It does help boost the local economy, increase in visitation, drive spending in the hotels, restaurants, the gas stations, and locally owned businesses. It does help enhance marketing and promotion. So that 70% that is funneled to the tourism aspect. One of the pillars is to help with marketing. Generally, those funds you market out of the area to bring people into your area. So you investing in the infrastructure that benefits all. So if you got those funds to invest into building an event or helping with something with the fairgrounds or another area that falls under the tourism realm, that not only benefits the visitors who will come in to spend money, but that also benefits the community members as well. And it kind of all circles together. It keeps the taxes off of local residents. We're not asking community members to, have to budget for this. This is people that are coming from out of town. And generally, when you travel, when you stay at a hotel or RV park or wherever, you're going to pay those transient lodging taxes. Morrow County is going to, should this happen, Morrow County would still be one of the lowest in the nation to have a transient lodging tax. It supports small rural communities. It gives them another avenue for gaining some funds, helps alleviate some of the general funds within the county's budget as well. So, and it provides local control and accountability with the people on a committee or a board. It helps them bring it together. So next page. You want to take it?
So the TOT tax is imposed. Currently, the state imposes a 1.5% TOT tax, and we pay that. It's embedded within the fees that we charge for our state when people stay at either the fairgrounds or our parks. And currently, like I said, the percentage is 1.5. It's going to go up in 2027 to 2.75. The additional portion, I believe, is going to the Department of
Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife.
Sorry, I didn't prepare for this part. So, like I said before, 70% goes to for tourism promotion and related facilities, and 30% may be used for local government purposes. Let's see here. The tourism promotion includes advertising, distributing information, strategic planning and research, running destination marketing organizations, which is what we are. We're a DMO and event marketing. It could also go towards tourism-related facilities. So if we ever built or wanted to build a convention center or visitor center, funds could be funneled towards that.
It's important to note that tourism promotion does not include general government services, like for roads and tourism. So that 70% needs to, within the ordinance, be specified as to where those funds will go. Local ordinances will specify this. So between that 70-30 split, the 30% that goes back into the county's general fund can be used for what is needed on that end if it's a company tourism related.
So that's where your tourism committee or board would help distinguish or designate where those funds could go. Carrie knows more about the bills that were recently passed, so.
Yeah, so just real quickly here, it's notable legislative bills, and Elena actually attended some sessions when these were on the hot seat and represented Eastern Oregon very well on a lot of this because this affected many places. So House Bill 4134 is a statewide TLT that actually bumped up the 1.5 to will be a 2.75. And there's a number of entities kind of funneled within the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife where it breaks down, but essentially that's where it's going. So House Bill.
Mostly going to wolves. That's where that's going to end up.
So we have lots of people coming out to look at, so that,
No,
that's why people are in hotels is to go.
Well, not necessarily.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
yeah.
Right.
That's a whole nother work session. So House Bill 4148 is major core policy change in Oregon's TLT, where the 70-30 split, because municipalities were all falling short within their own internal funding. They saw this as another source of revenue. So it did pass to where, if chose, the municipalities and the tourism aspect can split it 50-50 now. So, and when I had put together this slide, I'm not sure, has the governor signed those as of yet?
I have not heard.
Okay.
So
But it will become active law as of January 1st. So that will.
That's signed 4134. I was just checking.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Way to be on it. So on the next slide, you will see some of the local TLT. And when we see TLT, that's transient lodging tax, that's how we're referring to it. Some counties call it a TRT, transient room tax. There's other added things in like a TPAC, a tourism promotion assessment charge that both Hermiston and Pendleton, and I think Tillamook can't, no, Tillamook doesn't do it. So this is just kind of to show you where within the state of Oregon, what those look like. So when you go to Portland, come January, you're going to have to average pretty much 20% of your stay is going to be held up in taxes in Portland. So this is just determines the rate administration, acceptance, and remittance within that jurisdiction is what's on that page. So on the next page, a proactive approach. Will this tax discourage visitors? And I know that's a concern. Most people, when you travel, unless you dig into the nitty gritty of the facility that you're staying at, you really aren't going to know until you get that bill at the very end of what you're paying. Throughout the state, it has been determined that this is not going to discourage visitors into coming to rural communities. Like I said earlier, Morrow County will be, so this, should this be put into place, still one of the lowest counties within the nation to have a transit lodging tax applied. So who manages the funds? There's different ways that can be set up. A TLT tax can be managed by the local government. In talking with a couple of our peers, the hotel, don't start that. Do you need some caffeine?
No,
It's contagious. The hoteliers will send, like, say, Travel Baker. They will send those checks directly to Travel Baker, but they also get to retain 5% of it. So that's kind of the caveat, and to entice people that they get to keep 5% of what comes through because they're the administrator on that. So however this would be deemed to be set up, that would be in the ordinance on how it's collected, how it's distributed, and put. So a government body such as a board or committee with invested stakeholders, and that invested stakeholders would need representation from the hoteliers, from the lodging, or from the restaurants, each community residents, people from the parks. So everybody has a stake in this and gets to determine how the ordinance looks.
So I do want to mention that in speaking with Kevin, he would prefer that the state manage these funds. That way it's a little bit easier, not as taxing for them. No pun intended. Sorry.
Wow.
Did you hear the?
I bet you had that one in your pocket when
No, this came out. I swear. I'm sorry.
And I just clarify on managing the funds. What they're not actually managing the funds. They're managing the collection of the funds, and then those get 95% gets distributed back to the local government, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in a sense, it seems like it'd be easier for the people that are out there, the hoteliers or whoever else is collecting this, almost easier because they're already making that calculation and sending the check to save them.
No, that wouldn't change. It would just be
Right.
It would just be an increased amount.
Right. And so if we managed it, then we would have to have them calculate it and send us a check. So
Yeah.
the 5% handling fee, I mean, when we talk about administrative costs for administering grants, it's 10 to 20%, is what we figure our internal administrative costs are. So 5% seems like it's probably pretty cheap.
Yeah.
So it's like I was trying to say is that I think it's quite easier for people actually that are paying the bill.
have them have one person to talk to rather than multiple?
Yeah, and write one check.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah, got one easier. So on the next, okay, get it up. Okay, so Crook County, within the state of Oregon, Crook County population and landmass wise was kind of the closest to Morrow County when we were looking at this. And so they collect, of course, they call it a transit room tax, which is administered similarly to a TLT. They have an ordinance that recognizes where the funds go and how they're distributed out. And then the collection process and then administration. The county's budget documents show revenue and a tourism fund that accounts for the discretionary portion of the room tax, how it benefits the community. The tax helps fund tourism promotion, supports local attractions, community events through a discretionary tourism fund. The discretionary funding streams allow county leaders to support tourism-related marketing, community events promotion, and local development initiatives that help sustain lodging demand and local business activities. Why this is relevant. Crook County's approach shows that even smaller rural counties can set aside tourism-related funding without a large tourism economy and still generate meaningful revenue to invest back into the community. Again, this also helps the general fund shortfalls. So. Why this matters for rural counties. So we often face limited general fund or revenue options. The dependence on natural resources and attractions, heritage sites, and community events that draw visitors, and there's seasonal fluctuations in spending. Morrow County having a large natural resource-based tourism footprint. Hunting is a big thing for Morrow County. There's a lot of revenue that does come through in this aspect that we could possibly be retaining. So should we initiate a TLT? It helps by providing a visitor-based revenue stream to promote and sustain attractions, funding local improvements, so your parks, your public amenities, small business grants. This is something on the grants aspect that Travel Oregon and we through EOVA set aside a portion of our funding to help the entities to help build their attraction or their events. And it benefits not only the community or the county, but it benefits the region as well. So many counties have shown how modest lodging taxes in smaller rural communities can be used to help support and sustain tourism promotion and community events. So high priority uses of collected funds. Dollars would be invested strategically in areas with direct measurable returns. So once the committee is formed, we decide on strategic investments with measurable returns. And this is just a list of what could possibly be considered. Marketing and promotions, event development, infrastructure improvements, community grants program, as I stated earlier, product and experience developments, visitor services and stewardship. So accountability and measurement, there would be a reporting obviously to the county on what those funds are doing, what the measurement looks like, not only locally on the county level, but on the statewide or regional and statewide level as well. Next. Oh, good. Okay. Within Morrow County, there are 7 lodging properties with a total of 249 rooms. There are 6 parks with RV camping. There are 2 hunting lodges, and there are a number of short-term rentals, approximately 36 when I got on VRBO and Airbnb to kind of look as to some of the properties. The majority of those are in the Boardman area. So keeping those numbers in mind on the hotel rooms, the 249. The next page breaks down what is the Oregon Tourism Commission monthly puts out a state, regional, and county lodging statistics. So as you look at this measures the overall revenue efficiency. So you'll see OCC, that is the occupancy. ADR is the average daily rate. And the RevPAR is the revenue per available room. So these all calculate. So the one you're looking at is for the month of February. And those will align with the next slide. But as you're looking at those, so I printed out the latest one from March, it was. So if you look at Morrow County's average daily rate of 98.28, and now that average daily rate is 105.14. So obviously we're coming into more of the visitor season. So obviously those rates are going to go up. So on that next page, so this is just kind of a breakdown of the transient lodging tax, the financial impact, and projected revenue. So at a 3% lodging tax for 40% occupancy, and then below that, there's a 60% occupancy. Then then I went through and did a 5% transient lodging tax at a 40 and a 60% lodging occupancy. So if you take the 5%, the 70% at the 5% that we could probably gain for tourism would be close to $189,000. At 30%, the county would get $81,000 of that for their general fund. So in 27, on the 50-50 split, should we decide to do a 50-50 split in the ordinance, we'd all split $135,000. So that's a high projection at the 5% and 60% occupancy, but that kind of gives you an idea of growth, for 1 year, 5 year, 10 years out, it will just grow and it will just build. So any questions on that?
So this projection is only taking into account the hotel rooms, but you would also be getting this off of RV sites and every camping site that the county has and Airbnb. Is that correct?
Correct. So what a number of places have done on their RV parks is they do a flat fee. Pendleton does, I think, a $2 per night for RVs, and Hermiston does a $1 per night on RVs. So that can be written into the ordinance as well. So it's just however the committee or the county sees that they want to do that. But yeah, the Airbnb and the RV parks were not included in this projection.
Also, Commissioner, on our camping sites, currently, it's just built into our rate. We aren't actually charging extra for it. That would be something big problem with float. If we were to consider this.
And then follow-up question. So this is for stays of less than 30 days. I don't know, and I'd be interested if you all happen to know. I think a lot of our stays in Morrow County are temporary workers for construction projects, and they're probably here for longer than 30 days. So how does that play into this? Because I think that's where we have the most potential, but it's also if somebody's going to be here for 5 months, then are they not part of this ELP because they're here for more than 30 days?
I don't know what the state mandates on over 30 days. Do you have an idea on that?
I mean, you would not collect lodging tax for those longer term stays. I think with, if workers are staying in a hotel, like day 29, do they have to move to another room type of thing? I think it's a little, like the specifics, I'm not exactly sure, but you are correct that if it is beyond that short-term rental definition, and beyond the 30 days, then lodging tax would not be collected.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would be really interested to know how much of our 60% room occupancy rate is based on people who are actually here short-term versus people who are, because I think I've heard from some hoteliers that they cut deals for folks to stay.
They do.
Longer.
Yeah. And most of their stays are during the week, Monday through Friday, and then they
go home.
Then they go
So
home.
I might reset it.
Right. So what we look at is the tourism footprint is mainly like Friday through Sunday.
Uh-huh.
And so we're filling those heads and beds that aren't necessarily full, right now. So, with designing an event, that's going to bring in people to stay stuff. So you're not collecting on the weekends right now, but this is what this is designed to do.
I would imagine the quarterly filings, it's public information. You could probably read that. I don't know.
Yeah. So
You could probably
Elena's going to get
provide the
into
exact numbers, and you could see the revenue base for each
county.
Entity.
Yeah.
Even see
And
what,
then
and on the return, there's a spot to exempt stays longer than 30 days, stays for federal employees on federal business. There's a couple of other exemptions, but I would imagine you could glean it all off of those returns.
Yeah, we get a report from the state yearly that breaks it down, and Elena's going to go over some of those numbers. But per lodging facility, yeah, we don't.
Yeah, and the ones per lodging, it's called STR. And now they've merged with another company. And for our region, we get limited data because it requires, I believe, 4 or more properties to report, and not all of our hotels report. So I'd have to double check if we get a report from Morrow County, but it doesn't, the reports we receive do not drill it down by property specific, but I think it would be a great conversation to have with lodging partners, right? Because to me, it's a cost benefit. If you had more demand for a higher room rate, longer term, or, multiple days, they're a business, right? They're trying to make money, and how does that all play out in the real world?
Yeah, exactly.
thank you. For a moment.
So next slide. If there are no questions on the previous slide. Okay. All right. So the transient lodging tax, you do not need a public vote to put this into action. It's the county would create an ordinance on creating a TLT, a committee, and establishing the administration procedures of collection and distribution. So under Oregon law, cities and counties may adopt a TLT by ordinance or resolution among the commissioners, and you're not required by state statute to put it to a public vote. Key points. Many Oregon counties and cities have adopted TLTs by ordinance without a vote for the public. And the state law sets requirements on how the revenue can be used. So that's that legislative action of 70-30 split or the 50-50 split. So you can put it out for a vote, but you are not required by state to do that. Any questions on that? Okay. Key takeaways under Oregon practice. So state authority explicitly authorized and regulated under Oregon law. ORS 320, the assessment is the percentage of the room rate. The funds, legal restrictions on tourism promotion, the 70-30 split. Management, the county, the city, the DMO is receiving the TLT funds. So however the entity would be set up on receiving those funds and dispersing. So it's pretty cut and dry until you get into the nitty gritty on what the county and the committee wants within the ordinance. Shaping the framework. So we will continue to gather hotelier input, conduct discussions to finalize the best model, engage county officials. That's what we're doing here. Work with the county to determine legal steps for implementation, create a governing board and a committee for management, develop a timeline for implementation and reinvestment strategies, and outline a fund usage for marketing for the grants and for the infrastructure of the DMO. So, if you have any questions, we are happy to answer. Elena has some slides to run you through as well.
And I'll go very quickly on the beginning ones and then.
Is your slides, do they deal with the TLT?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I'm here to kind of complement what I was shared today, and really putting Morrow County tourism in the context of EOVA regional tourism, and kind of what that landscape looks like in Eastern Oregon. And what I did do, and I'm happy to skip over them for time's sake, I did have just a brief intro of the organization if you're not as familiar. And like I said, I can move through those quickly, and I did share them. So yes, we will just start here. So if you don't mind, I'd love to give a quick overview of who we are and what we do. And I guess for an official, Carrie did introduce me, but my name is Elena Carollo. I'm the Executive Director of the Eastern Oregon Visitors Association. We're the regional destination marketing and management organization for Eastern Oregon, which you'll hear about here. So next slide. Just what, like I said, a little ground level setting of who we are and what we do. Sorry, yeah, you're fine to go to the next slide. Thank you. I love this slide because it really shows the tourism landscape. So at the top level, we do have the Oregon Tourism Commission that does doing business as Travel Oregon. So the 1.5 statewide lodging tax, Travel Oregon is the recipient of that. In 2003, when that statewide lodging tax was implemented, really is when the 7 tourism regions became more well-defined. So the image on the right is the 7 tourism regions. So you can see Eastern Oregon. We're about a third of the state from a geographic standpoint, and much less than that in population. And then at the local level, local DMOs, and that does include Morrow County Tourism, our chambers of commerce, and really, we've really broadened our engagement with those that really interact with within the tourism industry. So we'll jump to the next slide there, and a little bit about kind of our role and purpose at the regional level, similar to Morrow County, is really to attract the right visitors to Eastern Oregon and Morrow County through values-aligned place-based marketing, really looking at developing experiences that are rooted in our food, culture, and landscapes, protecting the people and places that really center around community voice, sustainable travel principles, strengthen the visitor economy, support industry partners, and build a durable organization. What I kind of want to really kind of level up is around the centering around the community voice, and kind of going back to the previous slide of how we really operate. The work that we do really wants to be locally driven. We find that to be the most impactful, and really aligning with our local partners, and to do that in a way that kind of creates a larger buying power with our local partners, and how that can be shared out and communicated more broadly. So if we go to the next slide, really our core focus areas, very broad, but marketing, destination development and management, and then outreach and engagement. So I'd say marketing is what people are most familiar with in terms of the role of a DMO, destination marketing organization. I'd say a couple years ago, DMOs really did start expanding to that management piece. I think when you see places like the North Coast, Central Oregon, some of those higher use visitations, management is a big piece of that. I think where we're really kind of primed for our work is really balancing marketing and management, really looking at marketing in the off season, the midweek travel, looking at the management of where are those high use areas, where could some trail improvements happen, where's infrastructure development needed to really elevate that visitor experience. And I will say too, right, as a visitor, if it happens in a local place, then the local community gets to enjoy it. So it just really elevates that overall appeal of the destination. And then a lot of our work that we do too is the outreach and engagement. We're a big region, and we're not close together. So we really like to take opportunities to get out in region, meet with partners. And so I'm really excited to be here today just to do just that. If you want to go to the next slide, these are our overarching focuses. So where we've really spent kind of our main focuses kind of historically have been on outdoor recreation, culture and heritage, and culinary and agritourism. And more recently, we started doing some pilot work around accessibility, and working with partners across the state. There was a big initiative last year with Travel Oregon, and that we did do some accessibility work in Boardman, where else in Morrow County? Primarily Boardman, I would
Primarily
say.
Boardman.
And then focus along the 84 corridor. And then our priority with all of this is to really focus on building and supporting what already exists here. So our nature, our local farms, our history and culture. So this just helps kind of align our project focuses. So that was a very quick, brief overview. And I know Carrie brought a visitor guide with her. So that's just one of our a small marketing piece that we do, but it is our largest fulfillment piece that really is a great way to promote the region. And we distribute lots of them. But I thought what might be most helpful for you all today, and again, to complement Carrie and Vincent's presentation, is really looking at the visitor snapshot. And so what this kind of means for Eastern Oregon as well as Morrow County. So if you want to go to the next slide. This is a very brief overview, and this particular data set is looking at Eastern Oregon as a whole. So the 11 counties that make up the Eastern Oregon region. So our visitors, average age is 51, average income, 117,000, 21% have some determined or identified accessibility need, 86% of our visitors are repeat, with 92% likely to return. That's very good for us. And I think where Eastern Oregon as a whole, as a region, where we have a lot of opportunity is because we're so big. Someone comes, somewhere once and then they're like, oh, I got to go back, or I drove through that town and I want to check it out. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity for us to continue those repeat visitors and, let's get them to 100% to come back. So, and then on the left side, there are 4 distinct regions. Just that's how we really approach them. So Morrow County is part of Oregon's rugged country with Umatilla County, and then Northeast Oregon, Southeast, and then the John Day River Territory. And then those numbers down at the bottom, the 55%, this is our year over year regional occupancy rate. And I want to say this is based on 2024. 2025 numbers are not out yet. So just want to kind of do that little asterisk caveat. And then 60% year over year statewide is the statewide occupancy rate. So we are a little below statewide. But we have high hopes of increasing that.
Can I add to that?
Sure.
In this last report, Morrow County is at 67%, which the state is at 55%. So Morrow County runs higher than what the state does.
Yeah, no, that's a great. And I will say, this came up in a recent call I was on. I think right now with kind of the economic landscape of everything right now, I think what we have seen in times previously, when gas prices do increase, for example, people tend to do less international travel or longer travel. So we do really are able to capture that in-state visitor, someone that is looking to get out of town for the weekend and want to try something new. So Eastern Oregon, I would also say, like during COVID, we were pretty stable in terms of our visitation. Many other areas saw a drastic decline, but we held the line pretty well, and with small incremental increases that are continuing on the incline, which is exciting to see. So next slide. This looks at the Eastern Oregon visitors. So both domestic and international. On the domestic side, we do Morrow County, this is regionally. I bounce back and forth. Like I said, some data sets are just for the region and some can drill down a little bit more. But I think the domestic breakout is pretty, inherent. Washington, Idaho, Oregon are our top 3, followed by California, Utah, Arizona. And then when we move to the international market, Canada, specifically like Vancouver, British Columbia, that's considered a drive market for us. Mexico, Germany, Australia. And then as we go down, and I like to include the international just because I think something that's not as well known. Travel Oregon does a lot of work in the international market. They have representatives that live in specific countries that promote the state of Oregon on the state's behalf. And some of those key markets for us are Germany, UK, Netherlands. Those particular really like kind of that Western culture. And so there's a lot of opportunity for us to get those visitors. What's great about international as well, they tend to stay longer in a place and spend more money. So we love the international visitor.
Next slide. So this is kind of drilling down a little bit to Morrow County. Again, this data set is through 2024 and really looks at this is visitor volume. So the number of people coming to an area or coming to Morrow County specifically. And you can see there the dip in 2020 during COVID. And I will say Morrow County hasn't quite rebounded back for pre-COVID numbers. That's kind of a threshold the industry looks at, but we're not far behind. So, not quite sure what the spike was in 2022. I'd be interested, was there a big annual, a bigger event that happened? This is where kind of the data gets really fun. What happened? How, where was there an increase? Where did things drop off? Did a lodging property close? Did room nights decrease for whatever reason? So there's a lot more to those, to that story than just the numbers, but that's all I have for you today is the bar graph. But if you want to go to the next slide. So this one is looking at economic impact, and this one's a really interesting number, and mostly because if you look at the state tax receipts, so this is what is collected at that 1.5% for all of Morrow County over the year. And then the local tax receipts, I believe this would only be accounted for Boardman and Hepner that have the local lodging tax. So that you can see kind of the difference in those numbers based on in the tax receipt collection. And again, there was that spike in 2022 from a tax receipt standpoint, and then it leveled back off. But I will say it's grown substantially. And I would say this has probably contributed to, I don't know when the Sleep Inn was built in Boardman, but when you have new hotel inventory coming in, that obviously helps increase the tax receipts as well. That was kind of a rhetorical question, but if you have the answer.
I would assume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, this is what I love looking at data sets because I think it's really interesting to look at what is the story behind these numbers. And again, how can we make them grow? Oh, I love a question. Yes, Gus.
So the state tax receipts, that's at 1.5%.
Correct.
So the projections that you shared with us based on a 5% were less than 300,000. So why is the state getting 660,000 at a 1.5% tax when we are projecting that we would get less than half of that at a 5%? Where's the...
So this is for all of Morrow County. So this would, and Airbnb. So this would have that full number. So Carrie mentioned her projection was just for the hotels.
So huge. The hotels aren't even the majority of where this money is coming from.
Yes. And this is where too, I mean, thinking about, so the county as a whole, that's the state collecting at versus the local. And I think, I know I've been working on a formula of how to get this because I will say Harney County is having similar conversations about adding a countywide lodging tax. And it's like, I want all the numbers to match. So I don't have a perfect answer for you today, but yeah, I mean that it is substantial. And to make the math work, I'll have to do a few more.
So is this only transient lodging tax, or is it just says tax receipts?
This is
tax receipts. I think it takes into account
Yes.
like restaurants and gas and.
So it'd only be gas, since we don't have sales tax. It'd only have to be gas tax. It's included.
Okay.
Because on one of the previous slides, it showed something, talked about Visa.
Yeah.
So based
Okay.
off of credit card receipts or something.
Okay. So the state tax receipts, so that's including the gas tax.
I will have to double check.
Actually, it's not big enough.
Yeah, no, because this is I believe just and I will pull up the data set. I will say all this information is also available online, so I'm happy to send you the link. We're digging that in, but I can also reach out to Travel Oregon's research contact to get more specifics because but yeah, I mean my gut reaction to this is because the state tax receipt is on the full county, including the all-encompassing of hotels, Airbnbs. Something Carrie and I were talking about just before this meeting, for, I guess, would it be February? There were 756 room nights available for Airbnbs or short-term rentals, so non-lodging, at $120 a night. So I think there is
Did you just say 750
6 room nights available. So what that,
county?
yeah, so you think about that across a month. So it's one property, yeah.
So on those 36, when, I don't remember what slide it was, but when I broke down the 249 rooms, then the 6 RV parks, and then through Airbnb, we found 36 properties. So then you take, and that they're not, obviously with 756 nights, all those properties didn't book out every single night of the year, because 36 times 365, but the report, the AirDNA report that we were going through broke it down. And once again, this is the report that comes out of Airbnb or VRBO. This is how they collect them. And it's hard.
Okay, a quick, because someone's a math guy. Who's the number? I mean, I think all y'all are math people, numbers people. So let's say in a month, the month of April. Now I don't want to. I'm like, let me just triple check. So the month of April has 30 nights, right? If there's 36 properties, 36 Airbnb, structures that could be renting for 30 nights. That is 1,080 room nights available. This data set showed that those were at 60%, roughly 60% occupancy. So that's a little lower than the 756 I said, that's 648. And the average dollar rate of those was $120 a night. So that, from a tax receipt standpoint for that month, would be $77,000. Then you charge your 5% admin fee, you split that out.
Okay. So, Vince, how much of our campgrounds are going to this? Do we have, is every campsite?
We pay, the 1.5%.
I rates were huge.
Okay.
That's where you're getting that. Oh,
And every site is taxed,
okay.
including the tent sites.
Including the tent sites.
Yes.
Okay.
So there's opportunity.
Yes.
So yes, at the $661,000, it means that 1.5% means that there's $44,080,000 that they could levy that tax against. So
That's hard for me to believe.
me too. That's what, if that is state tax receipt is truly just the 1.5% of the state DLT, that's what the numbers tell you.
So are you saying your 44 million is for the statewide then? That would be what it.
No,
So there was $44 million worth of,
in Morrow County, yeah,
And this is where there is, and I know I don't have it in the slide today, but there is the Dean Runyon report that looks at like overall economic impact. Those numbers are pulled from a variety of things and looking at the broader economic impact. There's other numbers.
So, I mean, I'm still very interested in the idea. I think we have some hammering out of numbers.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm happy, like I said, to reach out to Travelberg and get a few more, specific questions answered. I love a good Excel spreadsheet as well. So, yeah.
Were you asking like what we're collecting from our parks? So
How much
our busiest quarter, this was for a period ending September 30th, 2025, and this is for a quarter. Our total tax liability was $1,600 per parks per quarter, for our busiest quarter.
And what was the dates on that?
That was for quarter ending September 30, 2025.
That's July through
600?
1,625.
Yeah.
Okay.
That sounds more believable to me.
I filed quarterly reports.
Yes, I
I
also-
can happily provide all this to you.
Okay.
Okay.
I will dig into this one for you.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. We'll move on to the next slide for now. And then this one, kind of what I was mentioning before, this shows the overall economic impact for Morrow County. So while lodging is definitely a component of why people are coming, food service is another big contributor. I do believe this data set is what's coming from that Dean Runyon report. I can double check that for you all, but breaks down food, accommodations, arts, and then you can see guests down there towards the bottom. And so I will say from an overall economic standpoint, Morrow County has exceeded the kind of pre-COVID threshold, kind of in that 22, a little dip in 23, and then back up again in 2024.
So I would question, some of these numbers myself, not that it's really relevant, but to say that we had more equal amount of retail sales as we did gas sales in the county. Just look at how much volume Loves would do out there on a daily basis.
I also don't buy very much retail in Morrow County, sadly. I'd like to.
And then the accommodations is 3 times the amount of what value of gas is sold in the county.
Yeah, I would be interested in the comparisons between the reports and what the county actually has.
Because, they're going to take in, everything at Loves, so a truck goes in there and fills up with 200 gallons worth of diesel today, $5 a gallon, that's $1,000.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's many trucks a day go through Loves.
There are many trucks today?
Many.
Many? All right. Okay.
And that is the end of my data slides. So I'm happy to answer any additional questions.
So what are you guys asking from us today?
I'm not asking anything.
Okay, if I could continue. So what we'd like to do, we think the TLT, considering a TLT it would be beneficial to the county. We're looking at additional revenue specifically for tourism, which would impact large little parks, fair, other items. Doing the St. Patrick's Day and that kind of stuff. This would be a nice tax that is more of a use fee rather than a tax, and largely impact visitors and would, generally not impact the number of visitors we have. And so if we can look to invest on that, well, it is a TL tax, a tourist lodging tax. And so that's something we always want to go in with full consideration of what the board wants to do. If this is something that we could explore, we would like to proceed with looking to prepare an ordinance for your consideration. Personally, I would prefer just to have the BOC act as the board and it just be part of our budgetary purpose. But if the board wanted to establish a committee to manage that and an advisory committee to manage that, we could write that into there. Also, while the change is to 50%, that's a minimum of 50% has to be used for tourism. A maximum of 50% needs to be used for general fund. And so just determining your percentage that you would want us to do on that would be the other consideration that we would need for the VOC. And so this is, I think, speaking staff-wise, I think this is, in my mind, a no-brainer to help bring in some additional revenue that doesn't directly impact the residents of Morrow County.
Yeah, I think on my part, absolutely let's, explore what an ordinance would look like. Unless we get a really large number, I think the BOC can handle the distribution of those numbers. Let's not make a committee for small numbers. And if it goes great, then maybe we look at making a group to help just manage those. But that's my thought.
I wouldn't be in favor of it. I think people are taxed enough, especially young families. Unless you put it out for a vote. I'd be in favor of that. Let the people decide.
Do we know, and this might be not even, so small, it's not a concern, but I'm just wondering how many, especially our parks, how many of those parks are used by Morrow County residents? And how many of those nights?
But, I
used
can
by
answer
Morrow
that.
County?
I used it, when I had a young family, I used it many, many, many times. Boardman, yeah. And I met people up there, people from Hepper would go to the parks.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm just saying it's maybe something to
Well-
be considered if there's a, I know if that went forward, then there is some level of impact, and maybe, the next revised feed schedule would have a discount for county residents or something like that to kind of offset. But just I want to throw that out there for consideration if this went forward.
It's a better tax when somebody else pays.
Vince, haven't we heard, or at least for the OHV park, over 50% of the users are outside of Morrow County?
I believe so. I think it's higher than that, but
So do I, but
yeah.
I thought I was being conservative. I said at least 50%.
I would, I mean, anecdotally, I would say your OHV is probably more non-Morrow County residents, while your Anson Wright and Cutsworth is probably more.
Or the day use, though, the
Yeah.
locals day use, or are they overnight?
I think people head up there, and I mean, they do. I know the gal across the street goes up and uses hers up there quite a bit, and others do. But that'd be an interesting stat to get. I don't know if that's something we track very well or could.
No, they do. They do track it, I believe. So I think we can probably get that information.
So I'd be in favor of a lodging tax, probably more along the lines of 3%, because I do feel that by and large, it's going to be paid for by people outside of Morrow County. And it's a way to, if we did this, I would hope that most of that goes back into supporting our parks and stuff. We've seen how much money that they'd like to improve those facilities, and so far we've been fortunate that most of our parks have been paid for through grants throughout the years. Last couple of years, we've put some local money into it, but making them self-sustaining so that those that use them are paying for them. This is just another funding mechanism. And let's be honest, going up and camping and stuff, it's not a necessity. It is a luxury item. It is a recreational. That's not something that you have to have in order to sustain. So if you can afford it, you can afford the extra 3%. If it was $100, that's $3. If you can't afford the additional $3,
It's not $100 in our campus.
but
Yeah.
if it's $3 more, and you can't afford the $3, you can't afford to go.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest.
And we can definitely just to assuage some of the concerns, as Chair Sykes mentioned, we can try to get that information on percentage.
I just don't think,
And
I think people can pay enough taxes, especially younger people. Or just put it out for a vote, let the people decide. Say here, it says in there we can refer it to a vote, let them decide if they want more taxes.
well, either way, whether it's referred to the taxes up, we need some kind of language on that. If it's all right, I'll have.
Well, it sounds like there's a consensus.
No, that's-
So you have a consensus 2-1,
I think we'll look at an ordinance and then we can go from there. I think that would be fair. But it would be worth making the ordinance, which I think is also what you were looking for.
Okay. Well, we thank you.
Thank you
Yeah,
for
appreciate
the
it.
effort. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up will be a discussion and consideration on public form industrial development and the county code land in the county. Well, if you've got set up on that. It's not. Sure. Short break.
Thank you. I go back downstairs. No offense, Tim.
No.
Bouncing back and forth. Thank you.
Next topic is, discussion consideration on public forum for industrial development unincorporated in county. It's not, Tim?
So, what we have, Commission, is a discussion. There's been discussions of having a public forum to discuss, a request from public to have some discussions on data centers. And we rather kind of group that as large industrial. Well, we all know that data centers are the one happening today. This is a topic about land use, and large industrial would be the applicable. I mean, whether it's a data center or food processing or large agricultural storage in the industrial area, they all have similar impacts as far as it comes to land use. And so today we're having our desire today is to have Tamara review some of the land use implications of large industrial developments, and to confirm what thresholds the county and the Board of Commissioners has on those items, and then to establish on going forth and having a public forum what kind of approach, what kind of interactions we'll do. So Tamara's got the slides about land use. I will be talking with you just candidly about a couple different options on engaging the public, and read on what we want to do and the process in order to facilitate some of these requests and needs from our residents. One thing to note is any of this discussion, we really want to focus on land use. That's what the county can control. Water and electricity, well, those are concerns. Generally, that's from a public utility provider. We don't do that. There's steps to go about that. And while we do have a large role in the tax abatement, that's a negotiated deal, and we're going to be looking for the best option for the county. And so really it's the land use practice and how it impacts properties around such developments. Yes, sir.
Since you said that, I noticed, I don't know if these slides are numbered, it's 37. It does mention your phone.
And I think that's just acknowledging a concern from the communities of what we've heard from in staff. People consider it. So we did bring it up, just acknowledging it, but it's not something that we would aim to address in this type of area.
When we have the public.
Yes.
I just wonder why it was included here.
Yeah, just to acknowledge some of those concerns. So with that, I'll turn it over to Tamara to go through these slides, and we'll chat.
Thank you. Next slide, please. So for the record, Tamara Mabbitt, we're just in the work session here. What I did was embellish, just reduce the number of slides that I used a couple of weeks ago when I presented to the governor's data center advisory committee. And I sat in, let's see, go back. Yeah. I sat on the land use panel. So I was one of two local people. So there was myself from a rural area, and then Dan Diaz from Hillsborough representing an urban area. And then there was the director of the Department of Land Conservation and Development, and then their economic development planner, Lee McElvain, gave more of a state overview. I was asked, I skipped the slides that talked about what the local permitting process looks like. And but what I will share with you, so I described that local permitting process, the process we have, and our rezone and how that worked. And this is just a list of some of the community concerns that we have heard, that I have heard as staff or planners in the office. So and this is just listing those. I don't have a position on those, but just so we have in one place a list of issues that people have raised, either informally to staff or in a planning commission meeting. So one is that they change the community character. And if you live next to one, it definitely changes your neighborhood character. Land speculation, and we have seen and geared up and then ungeared for some speculative rezoning applications. And there is a concern by neighbors that if land that might be zoned for residential or farm use, if that land is rezoned, it might add value to the person whose property it was rezoned, but decrease the value if you happen to be the neighbor next to a new data center. Concerns about equity and taxes, and that's, not a land use issue. Impacts to water quality and quantity. And on that, when I get those questions, after listening to most of that Governor's Data Center Advisory Committee, I send them to that website because I think that gave the whole range of people who had really good numbers and some that were raising concerns about quality and quantity. Traffic impacts, we've tried to deal with that through the permitting process, but we do have folks, particularly in some areas, people who live on Coonsey and around Tower Road, even through Irrigan, the traffic during a construction period, the traffic volume has increased a lot, even in the past 6 years since I've been here. Some concerns about facility retirement. What will the county do when the big 200,000 square foot plus building is no longer used for data center? I don't know. We haven't got there. We don't have a standard. And then the proliferation of transmission lines. And there's a direct nexus to that. Next slide, please. Our interactive map. So I can show you a map of our industrial zoning.
No.
So I need to have screen share. Okay, section, please. I have 2 different maps. I think I did these last week and I can't remember the slides. So,
Okay, you should. Oh, that helps if I stop.
let's see, I have to pull it up. Oh darn, I do not. What happened to my map? I think I just lost it.
Sounds like you need a map.
I do. I had it pulled up on my screen. Let's see where it is.
Is this just off our county website?
No. This is. Okay, I have that map, but here's it's the same one. Okay. I was going to show you where the existing industrial zoning is, and let me find that because that just takes a second. I can do that. Just 1 second. I can screen. I'm not screen sharing right now. Am I?
You should be able to.
Maybe I just have to. What is that? Okay. So am I? Nope. Oh, share. There we go. I have to hit that button. So there are 2 different maps. You've seen this map many times. I think Commissioner Peterson is about 5 times as fast as me as navigating this map. So we have this interactive zoning map. And we can turn on the layer to show all the industrial zoning. Like this, and I'll pop on that layer so we can show the zoning. And that's the purple. The purple. It's the purple. That's exactly right. So, and almost all of that is in this Boardman area. Not all of it, most of it. Here's the Army Depot, about 2,000 acres there. A little piece that the Port of Morrow owns here. This is Ellen Cleaver's property. This is a data center. And we can zoom in here. I need to get this down and get rid of that. I probably should have asked for help doing this. How do I get rid of that? Little inset map. And then, so the point is, this is all the existing industrial. Hey, Clint, can you tell me how I get rid of this box?
There should be an X on it, but it's
I'm not seeing the X. I don't.
You should be able to just click and drag anywhere on the window on the map and just drag it
It's not
outside the box.
letting me do
Outside,
that.
Outside the box.
outside the box. There. Just click there and drag down.
Oh, I got it.
That'll
Okay,
work.
thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. Okay, thank you. So this is all the existing industrial zoning until we get down to the Kenzo plant down here. And then there's one out in the middle of a field. It feels like that to me anyway.
The old
That's
sawmill.
down here, the old sawmill. Yeah, that's existing industrial zoning. I'd have to look at that industrial zoning to see if a data center could be sited there, because I think the exception was for, it's called rural industrial.
Yeah, is it rural resource industrial or something like that?
Yes, that's right. And I don't know, I have not been asked that question. Could a data center go there? I don't know. But the point is,
50 acres of her number, right? So
and you would probably remember those numbers. So you can see these data center campuses, they pop out here in our industrial zoning. And then the latest batch of industrial zoning is out here in the airport light industrial. So this campus is under construction. We just permitted this one, and we expect another application for that parcel. And then of course, this is the overlay zone. So I can, I'll just go out of that map, or I'll minimize that and then go back to the slideshow if that works. Oh, that doesn't work. I need to stop sharing. There we go. So, and I can actually run the slide deck. Okay. I need to ask to share though, don't I? Now I will share and run the slides. There we go. Thank you. And then this map, this was yep. This is the data. Clint helped me put it together. Stephen, obviously, with the map as well. This is what we have currently: 10 campuses, 4 to 5 data center buildings per campus, 1 application under review. We're also expecting applications for a 1,300 acre. That's definitely the big ones, the exascale. That's the 3 Mile Canyon Farms. That closed last week and is sold to AWS. This 300 acre campus is the other one. It's not shown here, but it's the 300 acre rezone down by the old coal fire plant.
So
And the Rowan Pertram. That's right. Yeah. And oh, I did include a slide about our permitting process. So these, as you recall, Commissioner Sykes and Commissioner Windholz, this is an outright use. That doesn't mean it's an over-the-counter permit. It's treated as a land use decision with a type 2 administrative review. Because each data center campus requires a traffic impact analysis, our threshold in our transportation system plan is 400 trips per day. So any development that has 400 trips per day or more is required to submit a TIA. And that is a subjective review, so that has to be subject to administrative review. So it's an outright use. I think that term is not the best, but that's what's used in statute and our code. So it's a land use decision with standards. It's not a conditional use. And that was the piece that the Planning Commission frankly said, we want it to be a conditional use. And the board said, no, we don't want it to be a conditional use. There's a little bit more opportunity to mitigate impacts and consider some other implications, but it's not currently in our zoning ordinance that way. A couple of these applications, it's an administrative review, so we provide notice of application to adjoining property owners, agencies, state, local, federal. Anyone can submit comments or request a hearing. And we've had that with a couple, so I bumped those over to the Planning Commission. Otherwise, it wouldn't involve the Planning Commission. And
So once you get into industrial, are there uses that aren't outright use?
a few.
Are there conditional within industrial?
Mhm.
That might
Yeah.
be an example of that.
Oh, Lord.
Keep going.
Yeah. Clint or George, could you help me with an idea of a conditional use? Anything that
Yes.
has to do with hazardous waste, et cetera. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at that right now. That's a good example. Solid waste facilities, um, anything that generates significant odor, fumes, glare, lights, noise, nuisance, things like that. And um, looking at general industrial, those are really the only ones. When you get into some of the other industrials that are a little more specific, there are probably more.
Um, Tamara, it also includes uses that are next to or within a zone, residential area where they might impact with, traffic or noise or air quality issues, and those might trigger the conditional use.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you both. I don't have any of those and I didn't want to guess, but those are good. We did have one data center campus, PDX 178, that's on Bombing Range Road. That was, it wasn't a conditional use. It was an outright use, but because the way that industrial zone, one of the standards in that industrial zone said, a industrial use larger than, I can't remember the square footage, that's in proximity to a residential neighborhood may be approved by the planning commission. So that got referred to the planning commission. But it's not a condition. It wasn't a conditional use. It just went to planning. I can't remember if you were on the planning commission.
Tom, I forget.
Yeah.
Especially because I was close to the subdivision that Rod and Joe Taylor.
That's right. Yep. It is really, really close to that. So that's the difference there. And I did not like that little critter that's over on my screen. So let me see. I also list here the legislative application and share that the two rezones took farm ground, resource ground, and rezoned those. Those were not simple applications, and both rezoned land that was not productive was one of them, I should say, had grazing value to it because there's a history of grazing on that larger parcel, but not the class 1 through 4 soil that we normally think of when we think of tillable ground, sometimes even class 5. And as you know, with both of those, we did a land swap. So there was a net gain of land that was taken out of an industrial zone, space age industrial. It's still considered industrial zone, but the underlying zoning, it really is farm use unless it has to do with the spacecraft industry. And those were rezoned. So we ended up in Morrow County with a net gain, I think, of 51 acres about of land that were protected under the exclusive farm use zone. And with both of those land swaps, we included a limited use overlay zone. Let's see, how do I advance my slides now that I'm here? Oh, there we go. One thing that I want to share, I've got to get out of here and back into something else. Sorry, this felt a lot more smooth when I was preparing for this other governor's committee. This is another map I want to share with you. Do I have to ask for screen share again? Or do I just do it?
Yeah.
Okay, share. Okay. This is a another map that Stephen put together, and this I think will be the first time you see it. So I'm sorry I'm not as smooth as Stephen on this. This is a map of energy infrastructure, and it's no secret data centers use a whole lot of energy. Most industrial development uses more energy than, say, a household. So this map includes a lot of information, and I would say that this is one of those areas of concern I've heard about, and it at least has me thinking about what this means. So you can see all of these local transmission lines.
Good, Tamara, could you point out the RDO property, 1,300 acres?
Oh, sure.
I mean, on this map right here,
Yep, just right here.
just a general area.
Just right here.
Okay.
So the rail line is here, so it's all of this to this here.
And the blue line is,
The blue line are local transmission lines. So
heavy line there is the BPA line,
the BPA.
Yeah.
That you
that heavy corridor.
yeah.
but they can't tap into that, right?
Well, so like at the 730 junction, Longhorn substation, tapping the 500 line, and then you see the line that's coming across from.
Yeah.
Here, I'll turn the substations on.
But if you look at, especially if you'll zoom in out there by the Tower Road area.
Sure.
So if you're driving on the interstate out there, and you'll notice where the solar project ends, there's kind of a triangle piece of property out there between the solar project and the rail spur out to the old coal fire plant. That's going to be BPA on the other side of that. Yeah, right there.
Right.
Yeah, right there. You're right. Correct. So that area will be another 500 yard that will be similar to what the Longhorn substation is, because they're going to tap that line across the Columbia River.
You know, I don't want
Particularly act additional.
So
I don't want to get ahead of ourselves here, but power, water. I mean, if we're talking about, we were at the meeting with the people, from friends of Ball County, and their main thing was, where are they going to be built? They said, we're not against data centers. They had that clear up front, and they said that. So that to me would determine a lot of where we're going with these, right? I mean, if you're going to do anyway.
So if it's okay, Chair, I'll go through this map and turn on all these layers, and then we can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I think the main point is many of these transmission lines. Here's the overlay zone area. Many of these transmission lines really are only built to serve data centers. I gotta zoom out. So there's our overlay zone area, and the other one is farther to the south. Here's the Apex to Maverick. It's not even on here.
you got to go further south.
Yeah, I do. It's just really hard because as me looking on Zoom, I've got all of these. Yeah, there we go. It's very clunky. Yeah, here's the. Is that the app? Is that it right here? Is this the Apex to Maverick right here? I think it is.
Keep going south. There you go.
Well, right here.
No, the red line.
That's the
No, that's the Pacific. That's not. No. Yes, I was thinking about something else. That's right. So this is the Pacific Core 31.8 mile transmission line. And but for data centers, that line would not be proposed. We just need to be very honest about it.
It's what?
It is, but for data centers, that line is being constructed to serve data centers.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah, and that's 31.8 miles of transmission line. We had that discussion a couple of weeks ago about whether or not the county wants the state involved with these outreach meetings. And
Because I just want to say, we talk about our role is planning and making sure the infrastructure that can get to the sites, water and power, is part of the planning, not the quantity.
it's less part of the planning when you're looking at a land use decision versus a conditional use permit. You have a lot limited scope of review.
Yeah, but it's still part of it.
You check the box. Are you in a utility district? Yes.
Yeah.
Do you have water? Yes.
Yeah.
And then it's bifurcated. So this the permitting process is bifurcated. So this Apex to Maverick Pacific Core line will have a complete standalone review process, primarily through the PUC, through their integrated resource plan. The PUC has to say, yes, Pacific Core, you can invest in that money. And they will come to us for their permit. We don't process a permit until we have underlying landowners authorization. When I talked to them a few weeks ago, they only had 30% of the landowners. So they are gearing up in case they don't have 100% of those landowners. Those will go to the PUC through the PCPM process, which is the precursor to condemnation.
Understood. But I just want to make sure we're still within what our this town hall or whatever you want to call it is going to be about, which is plan, not quantity. I mean, it's not quantity of water or power. Is it there? But this is still within the county's lane, so to speak.
Sure. I'm just showing to you, if you take a look back at the big picture, what are the cumulative effects? It's not just that campus that's sitting on 80 acres. There are new transmission lines and new energy generation that are being built to support those data centers. If we're not honest about that, we're not looking at the whole picture.
No. You might be misunderstanding what I'm saying. I want to be honest. I want to be honest about that. I just don't want to question they use too much. The quantity is not our issue. If somebody can get a water line or a power line to a data center, it's not the county planning doesn't regulate how much power they're going to sell them.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. You're exactly right.
See, that's why I think there's delineation.
Yeah.
Is what we talk about and what we don't talk about.
Okay. Yeah. And then the data centers are up here now. Let me see. No, here's all the data centers. We've already seen those. And here's the energy projects. And this was a message I thought was valuable. I gotta move my cursor over here. Sorry. Thank you. Okay. So a lot of these energy projects are being built. It's no secret. They're being built to provide power to the data centers. And I can show you, I'm just having a terrible time with this. Okay, thank you. Through this labyrinth of transmission lines. And what else did I sure put on the Boardman to Hemingway transmission line? And 15 years ago, when Idaho Power came to the 2 counties and 3 other counties in Eastern Oregon, they said, we're only building 300 miles of line to get from Hemingway to Boardman, right next to the coal-fired plant. Things changed for a variety of reasons. And they said, there will be no off-ramps for substations. Done. There will be a lot of off-ramps for substations to deliver power. And that was absolutely not even in the paradigm when they first started the process. But, we've got a good chunk. I don't know how many miles of transmission line of the Boardman-Hemingway line we have, but we have a lot.
Well, when they started, the data centers hadn't exploded there either.
Absolutely.
It's not really a thing. No.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. But that's changed. So here's the Boardman-Hemingway transmission line, goes all the way through the county.
So what's interesting though about the B2H line is it's constructed and permitted for 1,000 megawatts. The Wheat Ridge transmission line, that's a 230 line that runs down Bombing Range. It's a 2,500 megawatt, 2.5 times the capacity of that 500 mile. And that's because there was forethought in building that Wheat Ridge line.
Yes.
The additional capacity, because the need that it was constructed for was only 810 megawatts.
Of the B2H line?
No, of the Wheat Ridge line.
And it was built to handle 2,500. That's smart. And I think the local co-ops can do a bit. This is digressing a smidge, but I think it's really valuable. Local co-ops, as long as your board and your members support it, you can overbuild. The utilities are constrained by what the PUC authorizes as investment. That's about the extent of my knowledge about how that works. But the PUC has to say, you, Pacific Core, or whoever it is, it could be Cascade Natural Gas. You can, if you think that's where your load is, we'll authorize that. You can't say, I'm going to oversize this because we think we're going to get more. It doesn't work that way. So then you have things like this, Pacific Corp paying catch up.
We see, so, Idaho Power is the driver behind the B2H line is because they own 10% of the output of the coal fire plant. And they were going to use it as a means to get their 10% back home. And then also, at the time that is proposed is when Oregon passed the renewable portfolio standard. And it was seen as a way to get renewables back into the state. Oregon.
So I'm sorry, my map navigation isn't really great, but
Good map though.
We're not sharing this on our webpage. All of this information Stephen got off of public facing documents. Hasn't been available recently, but he does some good research and found all of this. This just gives you an idea of transmission lines. So again, back to my earlier slide, and I will go back to my PowerPoint slide. Let me see here. One of those, I gotta go back. One of those externalities that we hear about, I need to stop share and then reshare again. Sorry. That's the way it works. Right there. One of those externalities really is a lot of new transmission lines. But I think a message to the public, just like I'm sharing here and we shared to the Governor's Data Center Advisory Committee, they're completely separate permitting processes. And what I said, and I probably should have kept those original slides because I was going from memory. One of the values about having data centers in rural areas versus urban areas, you have things like transmission lines that are not interrupting households. You can locate large data centers that aren't next to neighborhoods. So when Hermiston or Boardman or Umatilla expand their urban growth area, those data centers are going really close to residential areas. Or if you're rezoning property, maybe I'm back to your slides. If you're rezoning property, I need to go back. If again, it's your bundle of sticks, you want to accommodate folks to increase the value of their property, but it's the county's job through that rezoning process to navigate the negative and the positive. So you might be rezoning one. So those two rezone overlays that we did, I feel very comfortable with those because you really didn't devalue a neighbor's property by rezoning those. One of the concerns that we heard in our listening session, Chair, was concerns of folks who said, my neighbor is speculating and I have my house, I have my biggest investment here, my neighbor's going to speculate. And if it's that easy, as they say, to rezone, they're really worried about that. Yeah. So my thought is we could look at some policies in our own comprehensive plan that would supplement what those state exception and rezoning requirements are. So we could say we would like to encourage rezoning when it happens for data centers or any large industrial development. If we take resource ground out of production, we're going to encourage those to be in locations that have, you name it, they're not in close proximity to residences. We're not going to encourage we're not going to encourage converting really good farm ground, but we would probably be supportive of rezoning farm ground that is very
soils as a random example.
Yeah. That's the kind of thinking I think we need to also let the public know. They don't know how these things are getting cited.
I think that's exactly right.
This is just spot zoning. They're just dropping them all over and I'm going to have them out my front window. But if you let the public know and then talk about some solutions, which you just said it's maybe something along those lines, but talk about those. But to me, that's how you start guiding them to certain areas. I mean, like you did an overlay on those transmission lines with industrial land. You know,
Oh.
how much of the industrial land is right there with the power lines?
They're not.
Yeah, so that, if you just showed the power lines and said, well, data centers need power, they're gonna think, oh, data centers are gonna be built all around those power lines, when that's not true. How much industrial land is left? Well, like RDO, they had space age industrial out there that they were farming, right?
They did. Mm-hmm.
Okay, how much more of that they got?
A lot. Originally 14,000 acres. So
Well-
they haven't given up very much.
Yeah, okay, so how do you control where that, I mean, you can't actually shut down, and like I said, we might be getting ahead of ourselves here. You can't actually shut down the swamp because that's a legal thing they can do, right? But could you shut down the swamp in certain areas?
Yes. And Matt and I we even had a meeting, it's been almost a month ago now, with the state. And Matt has this idea, well, we had this vision document in New York, right? Where they were encouraging future, when land is developed, they have a future overlay map, which is similar to this piece, maybe together, both a mapping exercise and a comprehensive plan policy discussion. In the future, we recognize those existing lands that are zoned industrial, our general industrial, our port industrial zones, our airport light industrial zones, they all allow data centers. Space age industrial does not. And I don't think that we could add that as a use. But those overlay zones that we adopted, the 1260 and the 300, we rezoned from EFU to general industrial with an overlay zone that allows only data centers. And we could have a mapping exercise that looked at class 7 soil that's maybe 5 miles from a city. And we'd be meeting, I think we could look at what that would look like. And I don't want to drive the market because I think both of those local rezones were market driven, and I think they're going to be really, really successful.
Market driven.
We didn't initiate it, the landowner, the marketplace. Yep, that's right.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm hoping maybe we can flip a little bit.
Yeah,
Let's
I think
say,
so.
okay, here's some, you want to put a data center in Morrow County? Here's some land that we have ready for you. You don't go out, well, if it's possible, just don't go out and find a piece of ground, you know what I'm saying? No matter where it is. Does that make sense? Guide where this growth goes. And that's what I've heard people, once they have heard that we are doing this, they have said to me, we should have done this a long time ago.
Oh.
You know, to guide where this big.
But they were going where it was already allowed, Dave.
Huh?
They were going where it was already allowed.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
But the other thing,
No, I'm not saying we did anything wrong. I'm saying that's the way it went down because they just kind of started coming. They caught, and we go, wow, we didn't know there was that many going to come in here. But now,
I think forward looking now, we're in a different situation.
that's what I'm thinking. What do you think, Jeff? Just let it go the way it is?
because I think that, because let's be honest, one of the things that was driving this and the formation of this group was Cameron Krebs having an option on his property to a speculator who wanted to buy it. And Wes he met with all three of us, and he met with me, and I told him it's EFU ground to be able to get that changed to a zoning designation, put a data center on. I'm not going to say it can't be done, but it's a very high hurdle. Even if the county wanted to, the state has to sign off on it.
Right.
So
Plus, he didn't have acreage to swap.
No. But the other thing that we have to keep in mind here is that they're going to locate where there is the availability of the resources that they need.
Mhm.
And one of that is industrial water. Who in the county besides the Port of Morrow has an industrial water permit of any size or any excess capacity?
That's right.
That's the Port of Morrow.
Mhm.
And And they only have so much. And to be honest, I'm surprised that they would be willing to sell to Rowan Percheron because they have lots of vacant ground that they want to sell to somebody. And, you know.
The port does. The port has, yeah, sure.
And there's many uses that they could sell to that require far more water than what a data center does. So to see them selling their water to somebody that's not going to be developing on their ground, I can't see that they'd be willing to do that very much.
A lot of their ground they can't develop because they have to have it in order to distribute their wastewater.
Mhm.
They can't do anything with it right now. And
But that's why they bought Lost Valley Dairy.
well, and they're using every acre that is available. They're using it, every single one.
Yeah. So,
With the water rights that are there.
you know, I can't see, so if somebody wanted to locate a data center, you know, way south, you know, say across the street from Greaves property out there next to the Maverick substation, where are they going to get the industrial water? And the port doesn't own it. Why would they want to sell the water out there when they have lots of acres of ground that's going to meet them? So I don't know what we're trying to accomplish by having a work session here with the input from the community in that what are we going to change? What are we going to do differently? If you have, you know, there's only so many places that you're going to be able to site a data center. Industrial, important industrial ground without a zone change.
Mm-hmm.
And why would, if somebody wants to try to tackle that hurdle, of getting them rezoned, why are we standing in their way? If they want to invest the time, the money, the effort that it's going to take to do it, and even, like I said, started with, even if we approve it, they have to get through the state. Maybe I'm naive, but I don't see the state. Well, especially with the attitude that is at the state level towards data centers.
So this is the flip side of what on this meeting. We are going to tell the public what can happen, how it gets done, see? And if somebody wants to develop it, you can tell them. They can develop it there. Then they know, see, what they don't, where they're at now is just like, you know, when we had our other meeting and, you know, people were saying, well, if I don't want to buy a piece of land, if I think a data center is going to go in there. Well, if they know ahead of time a data center could be developed there, then don't buy there.
Well,
See, it's a two-way street.
So that's along the lines of Tamara's thing. First slide is change in community character. That can change even with the existing zoning as it is. You heard me say this once before, and I showed Matt this example the other day after our CDA group tour. Literally across the street from my parents' house for 30 plus years, this was pasture ground. It's zoned EFU. It's always pasture. It was never heavily grazed. Some years there's never any livestock in it. Change in ownership, and now it's intensively farmed organic. There's blowing dust that impacts my parents' residence. There's corn stalks blow in there. There's huge impacts of change there. Should, you know, my parents and their neighbors been able to say, no, that's a change in community character, or I don't want that. So I don't see what the distinction is at the basic root level.
Well,
Things can change. I mean, that's all that's, change is inevitable, no matter in everything.
I think we do have, you know, tools available to us, and the scenario you played out, I think actually there should be an argument for there should be some at least mitigation practices being done. In a different work session, perhaps we can talk about organic farming, Jeff. I'm going to withhold my comments on that one. But I think, you know, we can do both a comprehensive plan and a let's say overlay guidance map of where we think these would go, with the acknowledgement of this is going to have to be done with port, you know, investments, and have the port involved and say, hey, these are the properties that the county think, or these are the characteristics that the county thinks that we should be looking at if we ever consider a rezone. Is this something that fits with, you know, what you guys see? And if we do, and if it's something that never comes up because nobody even tries to attempt it, great. And if it is something that comes up in the future, great, we planned for it and we have this here and ready. I hear what you're saying, and sort of this may not be needed. I would rather have it and not need it than to get to a point where we say, well, gosh, it would have been really great if we'd done that.
So I'll go back to what do you hope to accomplish? What is the end goal? What's the product that comes out of having this?
So, if I could venture on this, is we're getting community concerns and fears. The drastic expansion, growth of data centers, how that's going to impact lands that adjacent to their own. I think and my discussion in this work session, I think you've answered a couple of questions. Each one of you, I believe, have been invited and had a little listening session with one of the community groups that Dave, I think you've had multiple. We've been involved in one as well. They have valid concerns. At the same time, the county's role in planning, there's a dichotomy. Part of it is we need to protect property owner right to know what their property is, what they want. The other side is the planning principles of plan development and protecting public health, safety, and wise utilization of the land for the community good. Those are flip sides of the coin. And, we can, if we flip one side too far, then we're impacting property rights. Otherwise, we're just opening it up for Texas development where you can go anything and everything right next door to each other. Those are tough decisions. In looking at this, and if you don't mind, let me share my screen, if that's okay.
Am I still sharing?
No.
Oh, before you do, we might go back to this because this was a slide from my task force presentation where the local options are to look at comp plan policies and maybe a better formula for traffic, construction traffic and transportation impacts. The destination resort planning model that the state adopted in the 90s when Central Oregon had all kinds of destination resorts and you have to master plan them. I don't know of a way that we can do that, but that was a tool. And I think supporting rezoning of remote parcels, like we did, those 2 overlay zones, those are in remote areas. It's not changing a neighborhood character because the neighborhood is out really kind of in the middle of nowhere, right? And next to a freeway. We can look at cumulative impacts of transmission line siting. That's way above a county level decision. And then we can also, as a policy matter, encourage co-location with energy generation. Maybe you can't get water on the Grebes property, but you wouldn't have to build new transmission lines if you could co-locate exascale data centers next to the energy generation. You would reduce the number of new transmission lines going across farmland, or you could have the small modular reactors that Umatilla County has been promoting, and you can also encourage the battery storage. We're starting to see that also. So those are a couple of policy things. I think here I'll stop sharing, Matt. I think it's important for those folks who are concerned. I think it's important for them to have a forum to share their concerns and listen to them, and then to say, here's the reality. We're not going to downzone any of those industrial properties, but we could be proactive to mitigate negative impacts to existing neighborhoods if we adopt certain policies. And we might not ever use those, but we might.
So I want to interject something right here. As long as it doesn't become pretextual like water is, and it becomes a national narrative now that these all use, and people are latching onto that, and it's a specious argument because they're just using that because they're anti-data center. So if people who will latch on to certain things, does that make sense? To stop.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, everybody, it's becoming part of the narrative.
It is.
These things suck up all this water, and it's not true. And yet they're using that and they get it into the, and pretty soon magazines are running, quotes from people that become studies on how much, well, you see what I'm
Right.
saying?
That's absolutely, yeah. And that's why I think, Matt and I can pull together some other slides if you want to have a listening session followed by, here's the reality. Any of these industrial properties are based on the zoning could qualify for a data center, not the space age industrial. But you got to get power and you got to get water there. And so there are quite a few properties where that's not the case. But so that's also why some companies and a landowner has gone out of the way to rezone. And those two rezones, again, they chose those locations because the type of soil, proximity to water, proximity and availability to water, and transmission and power.
What I find kind of interesting is that the data centers, they're in my opinion, one of the least impactful large industrial entities that you can have in an industrial zone.
It's a lot better than a slaughterhouse, isn't it? Or a radioactive or a hazardous waste disposal facility that
they don't make noise.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have a smell, and their traffic impact is far less than a food processing.
Not during construction though.
Yeah, but construction, any facility is construction. It doesn't matter if they're building a food processor or a data center. Construction impact is not huge. It doesn't matter the construction.
That's ephemeral. It's here and there. It's gone. Just like a windmill. Can you say no windmill's going to be built in Morrow County because of the traffic? They come in, they build them, then they leave. I don't know how long it takes to build a data center. They throw them up pretty quick. Yeah, and then they're gone.
Mm-hmm.
So you have traffic issues for a little while. But it's not on an ongoing, continual basis.
But 200 employees at a data center campus, you don't have 200 employees going there at a shift because they're staffed 24/7. So you don't even have 100 going in the morning and 100 at night because people don't work 7 days a week. That's 200 employees spread across, maybe 2-hour shifts, 4 10s, and then your weekend. So you don't have 100 employees going in at one time. When you have Lamb Weston that at one plant employ, or is it both plants, but around 500 employees, they have a far more traffic impact from an employee standpoint, plus all the truck traffic going product in and product out. So they have a far more traffic impact and they have a smell.
So I think my response to that is if we were seeing that level of growth of food processing plants in Morrow County, I think we would be getting a similar, if not actually a much stronger pushback. The reason it's data centers is because that's what's growing. And I think any large industrial growth, if we had anything else of that level, I think we would see similar concerns,
Except
if
a
not
lot
bigger ones.
Except a lot of the people that are part of this group are part of a large industrial growth out near there.
Sure.
They're employees of 3 Mile Canyon Farms. They're employees of Beef Northwest. They have a far more traffic impact. They have a smell impact.
But they're not located next to houses and where people have invested. Face it, most Americans, your biggest investment is your house. And if you live in with this fear that the county or a private landowner might speculate and rezone their property, that's kind of scary.
So,
you had something wrong, sure, man.
yeah, I did. As we look at this, quite frankly, I think there's 3 triggers that are really catching people's eye in this current community outreach beyond the complaints about water usage, electricity, and all this thing. Truly land use. The development that's occurred around Boardman Airport, whether it's the solar, the current data centers of the what is it called?
Exascale.
Exascale. I always forget the scale. The exascale site. People are concerned about that. Partly, then we also have the speculative land purchases right there on east of Tower Road and extending further, which it's speculative. We know it is. It's not established developers going in there. It's people wanting to cash in on this stuff. And people are reacting saying, this could happen next door to me. They don't know and understand the processes that are happening. The other two sites I would say is bombing range. People are wondering how that popped up in a farming area. It is adjacent to some development and neighborhoods. They wonder it, and I don't think it's been messaged why. There it is. On top of that, we have the data center that's right in the middle of Boardman. Now, that's not our issue, but it happened. And so people are saying, if it can happen there and on bombing range, it can happen anywhere I
don't think bombing range is the same as Olson Road. I mean, you look at the density, how many houses out there on bombing range?
Well, it's interesting because we did have concerns. That was one from our listening session. They were complaining about the utility impacts as there was construction to connect bombing range to the port's water and sewer.
The utility impacts?
The utility impacts.
The fiber, the water, the power.
Because it went down these neighborhoods to get there instead of going out to bombing range and down. And so they're seeing the impacts on their homes, even if they're not immediately adjacent to it. So, I think those three instances have kind of got people's red flags up. And I'm just wondering, I wrote down a couple different options of town halls. And of course, there's the first one, listening session. Just let them come in, let them express and vent on that, which still, we always want to listen. We always want to hear, get that in. But that might be one staff, maybe a VOC member or whatnot. There's other ones where you have the town hall, kind of like we did with the courthouse, and a couple of us taking questions. So that's a listening session with some rebuttal. You could have a panel Q&A where we get stakeholders and the public can go and ask questions. Or you could have a policy workshop where you have a select invitation that certain people can talk, resident representation, stakeholders, port and everything. But I'm just wondering if a next step might be worthwhile to do kind of an open forum where we, as staff, prepare some talking points, and maybe having a listening session combined with this, where we talk about the role of the county in land use. What can the county really do? What can really pop up in an EFU zone, and what it takes to get there? And, maybe we have one explaining how bombing range came about.
They did a zoning swap with some other property that Frederickson's had down in the port area.
But we explain it and say that's how that happened, and that's not common, so it's not going to just pop up anywhere like we did.
And that was my argument about a two-edged sword. You tell them, and that also got me to thinking. At first I thought we'd have the meeting, and the public would be listening but not participating, but that might not be the way to do it. At the end, have some time where the public could speak to whoever it is, gave the president, okay, this is the way it is right now, and this is why it happened. And then have them speak to it. I mean, you're not going to alleviate every single, and there, I think you end up with people using certain things because they don't want any more data centers in Morrow County. So, that thing comes, half a mile from my house. That's causing, you see what I'm saying?
But and I do. And no matter what kind of forum we use for this, we're going to get those people who are like,
yes.
You're going to get Johnny Tom.
Yeah, build absolutely nothing, absolutely nowhere.
No, you're going to get them. You got to accept it.
But if we can have, one of the things I was thinking is, I've been in these, in these public outreach ones where you don't actually have a big public forum to zing questions. It's more or less, we have stations and you go around and there's a survey at the end. What'd you learn? What'd you do? What are you concerned about? So we can compile that and come back and share it to you. So there's no firing range of putting someone up there and getting pot shot, but we would have staff members and maybe even elected officials there at certain stations to answer questions as the people come through.
Yeah, I've been to those before. And I sometimes pity the people, staff at the table, because there's certain people can get in there and dominate it. Whereas when you have a group, and I suggested that you be the moderator or the facilitator because I've watched you, you're good with crowds. You kind of, at our town halls where there was upset people, groups of them over the courthouse, I just, that was my thought on the thing is the crowd's easier to control, I think, when it's all together. That's my, I don't know, Tamara, what do you think? Well, I'd hate to see you sitting at the table and have John Tolman sitting there.
It happens every week, or multiple times a week.
Yeah.
But I like, we'll ask our undersheriff if we can have a few deputies there. It has helped a lot. I like the idea of either the listening session or a town hall. I also like a presentation about, here's the history of data centers in Morrow County, and this is why it landed in this area and this area. Pull it together better than I did now. So these have all been permitted on land that has been zoned industrial for a very long time.
Clint had his hand raised.
You see in the bombing range one, why it also got there is because somebody invited in Friends of Oregon or 1,000 Friends, whatever, and put a kibosh to putting that data center off of Patterson Ferry Road up on top of the hill.
Oh, really?
That's where those onion sheds are.
Oh, yeah, you told me that. But
That's where that data center was originally supposed to go, is where those onion sheds are.
Onion sheds down by the interstate?
Nope, up on top of the hill, just above the canal, just south of the canal, up there where it's flat.
right in here.
On Patterson Ferry Road. Oh, right there?
Well, yep, right in that area.
Oh, that's not a bad location, actually. But that's, oh, right there. Oh, those storage sheds on that taxon.
Here, yep, okay.
Oh,
That's where that data center is where we're supposed to go, in that general area.
yeah.
Because they were going to buy property from Frederickson's, and do the zoning swap with that other piece of property that they used for bombing range. Apply that there, take that GIF and apply it where they.
So- I do not think a listening session with the public will go well unless we have some kind of proposed plan for how we're going to assuage at least some fears. I think if we are just doing sort of a historical lesson as you were, or if we're just listening, I think people will be frustrated and feel like we're dragging our feet. That's my personal take. I would rather look at this as an opportunity to say the county, and I'm one person speaking right now, and I recognize that, is considering, updating both the comp plan and adopting a potential overlay zone that would limit or encourage where data centers are going to go. And we want how we build this plan to be done with public input. I think if we do that, we will get positive input in terms of people telling us their concerns in a way where they feel like they have something they can contribute to. If they think that we're not doing anything, then they're just going to be chewing our butts off. That's my personal take.
That's a good point. In looking at this, may I propose kind of a hybrid? We have them come in, we have a presentation. I can point that out, do this with Tamara's help and Clint and George's, create a presentation that hits some of these points. Then we open it up questions there, or we say, here's 5 corners. Here's this one, and we can put signs up there about different things that they might have questions, like next, changes to the comp plan, solutions, or tightening the control, actual current process, and those things. And we have staff members go there. I would strongly recommend, as we've talked about before, is reaching out city, port, even AWS and some of those others and say, We need you here to mingle. You don't have to lead any of these discussions, but you need to be here just to be involved and see what's going on. And we have it, and we have a survey saying, you know, before they leave, saying, what did you learn? How is this doing? Would you like to see more actions based on the tightening controls, or what options, or for going forward? Because I don't want to go out and propose, we're going to revise all this if we don't need to.
I don't think we'll get accused of dragging our feet because we haven't committed. This is the first step out. We haven't said we're going to, you know, okay, this is our first foray out into talking about this. So we haven't said, oh, we're going to do a plan like this and then start holding a bunch of meetings and not doing anything. So I think we're in the information gathering stage. So,
And we could share some of those things like comp plan policy options, or show a map of class 7 soil that's 5 miles from residences, or 4 or 3 or 2, something like that. Clint had his hand. Is that okay?
He's had it up for a while. Clint.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to share my 2 cents. I think there's a lot of value added in whatever this forum looks like and whatever the content ends up being, but leading with some facts, leading with some information. You know, folks are going to get their information. They're going to get their facts from somewhere. So are they getting their facts from us? Are they getting their facts from people on social media, people with agendas? So I think you're, to some extent, a back and forth where we provide them some information. I think you're going to get a lot more value added and more educated comments back if people have a little bit of knowledge. You know, I don't want to make too strong of an assumption, but I feel like anecdotally most people just aren't aware of, you know, land use laws and the land use process and how this works, and to the point of a lot of this, what role the county does play and what we can and can't do. So yeah, that's just my point. Is I think if we provide information, provide facts, they get it from the correct source, then we'll get more valuable feedback and better questions.
Yeah. Might be leaning on you, Clint, to help with some more slides with just some facts. You know, one fact, for example, might be, I think this is true, and we'd need to probably work with Jacob, Clint, is all of the data centers to date are using existing certificated Port of Morrow water rights, and they're perfectly legitimate water rights. The port chose to provide water, and the recipient has paid for the infrastructure to get it there.
And furthermore,
yeah,
that's one thing about DLCD, our conversation there. We are a unicorn. We're odd because of Morrow, the Port of Morrow's ability to be a utility provider. They said they don't see that anywhere else in the state.
So that water discussion that you listened to, Jeff, had, you know, they were talking about the Dalles and what percentage of the Dalles City water, and now they're going to have to expand a watershed. We're not doing that out here. We're using existing water rights. And then when they're in these really rural areas, we're taking that wastewater and land applying it to another beneficial use. And relatively, it's really not that much water. And we could come up with some slides that are objective, not subjective, and say, this is what we understand. Here's the industrial base. Here's the overlay zone. This is how it works. And then moving forward, here's a few things the county's considering. What do you think about it? And what are your other concerns? And we would spend as a team, I think, some good time pulling together a slideshow. And I agree, Matt does a good job with those.
Tamara, I would
Yes.
just like to add a point here. I agree with Matt and Clint's approach to a town hall and to have like a survey at the end. One method that I'm familiar with is in a town hall. We had a presentation. We have the tables. We had over 100 people. We had 10 or 12 tables, and we had either staff or resource person at each table. and talk about these issues. But we had a method where we handed out clickers to vote on issues during the presentation. And so a question
You can
would
do it
be
electronically with phones.
electronically. And so that there was a vote after each presentation, just to get a sense or feel for if the people knew about this or understood it, and if they liked it. And so as the meeting went along, you had immediate response back from those people that were attending that meeting by just having them register on each comment or each vote immediately. And it worked really well.
I love that idea. And, we've been to conference. That's a super idea, George. We've all probably been to conferences where you click on a QR code, and as the presenter saying, who's concerned about property values? Ding, ding, at a scale of 1 to 10, is that your highest concern? Or who's concerned about water? Who's concerned about reducing farmland? And you can get instant results. And then the whole group is sharing that information, and it's factual. If we're lucky enough to have 50 people or 100 people.
Well, you also get the people that don't like to speak up because of
Yes,
the neighbor not neighbor, the person close to them will.
might disagree, and most people are not
They don't want
confrontational.
confrontation.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I haven't facilitated one of those, but I've sat in those, and that'd be an awesome thing rather than giving stickers for people to put out on poster.
That's old school.
It works,
Yeah.
but that's old school.
Yeah.
And one other thing that I would highly recommend, which I failed at doing with the water conversations, Wesley, is we record this. We get it down.
Oh.
We can make it available so if other people want to watch it, we don't have to repeat it time and time and time again. We can say, here's this, and
Put it on YouTube
as a
or wherever.
resource.
Mhm.
But I'll just tell you, this has given me some direction that I think I can sit with George and Clint and Tamara and develop something. That was my inherent goal of this, is figuring if we're going to go out and do something, what's the structure? And so it would be, what I would propose is we have an educational forum that we talk about. Informational.
Don't use the word education as much.
Yes, that's true. Yes, I'm still learning that from the Westland thing.
Okay,
And
I will,
informational.
your permission, I will correct you every time you now.
You do that.
Okay.
I'll give you a little whip. An informational meeting and just to explain. Because like I said, people get their information wherever. They see these three, they're concerned. And it raises their, and we can show where the fence line is now, where items, where it can happen. And if we need to constrict that fence line, or if it's good where it is, we let them know. And we give them the options and get some feedback from it and see if we need to move forward on this. And like I said, we get some of these other stakeholders to be involved.
Yeah, I think it's very important to have the port at the table, or either
least there.
part. At least there. I would love, for example, for Jacob to explain. This is our Jacob or Miff. This is our water right. All of these are with permitted or certificated water rights. The port, the taxpayers didn't pay for money, or they did. Not a sales pitch, because people don't want a sales pitch. It's just the facts about those existing data centers, and maybe a discussion about capacity. I mean, I think we've all heard that the port says, we're trying to diversify our portfolio. Maybe we're not too eager to provide, soak up that much of our water right bank with more data centers or our industrial land inventory. I don't know, but I think coordinating those factual things is helpful. And it's also a hot topic because people had Coonsey Road dug up for fiber, and then they had Coonsey Road dug up for a big water line that ended in the middle of multiple windstorms. And now there's a big overlay project going on. People are just kind of worn out on that. I don't see that happening again based on where these things are located, because the infrastructure is there now. And they overbuilt that, so it doesn't have to be dug up and repeated. So I'm not clear if the commissioners, if all or one or two or three of you want to be part of it?
I want to be part of it.
Well, I do too, but if I said from the beginning, I wanted all three of us there.
And as far as being part of it, what does that mean?
I wouldn't mind running a station if you gave me something that was not too technical to be beyond my capability of doing, if, that's the way we would
You
decide
can
to run
coach it.
this.
I'd rather be there just to, I guess, listen and see how it went down.
And quite frankly, the people who are going to be there are going to know the three of you, and they're going to go to a station, and then they're going to come over. Dave, what do you think about that? And you're going to get hit up on things, more or less everything and anything. That's county was doing Weber County was doing a big development plan city on this unincorporated area. They wanted to put houses and everything on with this. And that's what the commissioners were. They were just floating there. This is my experience in Utah. They had stations, but then the commissioners were there and they just took side
The
questions.
one thing, I don't have this technical expertise that you have, but I do have constituents who have talked to me and I've talked to them.
Yes.
That's
We might want to have teams, so you have one staff and one elected at a table.
that would.
If you're
that would
assigned,
fine
yeah.
with me.
So, timing wise,
Yeah.
I would say we wouldn't be able to get this done until mid-June at least.
Oh,
At least,
yeah,
if not July.
yeah.
Just to get all the information together, to get stakeholders in, make arrangements, publicize it properly. And
Take
so,
the time to do it right.
okay. I just wanted to kind of set those expectations for it and just, if that's okay.
You're looking at me. So Dave,
I
I know what you
wanted
said.
you on board,
And it's not gonna happen, but as you've said before, it's democracy. You two want to move forward with this. I will support that. I will make my comments. First of all, I see, what's been talked about is infringement upon somebody's personal property rights. Again, if they want to move forward trying to do this, more power to them. Ultimately, I don't believe that we are the ones that have the final say. We can permit it, and the state can deny it. We can deny it, somebody can appeal it to LUBA, and they can overturn us, and the state can tell us that they have the right to do that. So the state has the final authority. We don't. And then you can have all this informational, I didn't say educational, Gus.
Good job. Well done.
You can have all this informational, and it's me being a cynic. I don't think you're going to change their mind. This is a religion. This is, a cult belief. Then they aren't going to believe what you tell. They have their mind made up. The data centers are bad. The impacts are bad. They aren't going to change their mind.
Well, that's not what I'm trying to really do, though. Like I said, I come back to my same thing is, they will know how the process is and that the county can't do this. Okay, that's the two sides to this point. Is we're going to be able to tell them, we can do this, we can't do this. The state is going to decide this, so they know.
So another aspect of it that I really have a problem with is that we are signaling out one industry. Because I never would like to single out one. Because what we're talking about here is just one use of industrial ground.
And just to address your 2 points, I think one of the breakouts and one part of the presentation would be fully, what is the current process? What could change? This is where it is. This is the uphill battle. It could change even if the county wasn't against it for the current process.
Well, also in our work session, discussion and consideration on a public forum for industrial development.
Mm-hmm. The other thing is we slate this as large industrial development. Yes, it's the data centers right now. In 10 years, could it be something different? I hope so. I hope we're still there dealing with development as CDA opens up and other things. And everybody says data centers. It's like when we had that data center ordinance change, we really need to strip it down. Yes, the data centers is the pop-up one right now, but it is large industrial development.
We'll put data center on the same list as education.
I can work on that
No.
too, yes.
Okay.
Oh, thanks,
I
Mike.
like that. I
That
like
just
that. You're
popped up.
right. You're right. This is informational.
Yes.
Yes.
It is informational. Could you pop that back up?
Industrial development.
I can pull it up.
Which one?
Clint just sent a message saying, side note, roughly 47 miles of B2H transmission lines are in Morrow County out of the 300 or so.
We have more than 10%. Cool. Thanks for the fun fact, Clint.
I know, it's good. And maybe we think if you give staff some time to noodle about it, maybe we invite our DLCD region rep or Lee McElvain, who's the Goal 9. I mean, she's got some great facts. And what's their role? What could they do? I think
Also the way to do this, I know I interrupted you, I'm sorry,
No, it's okay.
but it would be really great if we could run through a mock scenario. Because I think that would be the most effective way, and do it on industrial ground. Do it, it's not doing reasonable. Just go through, okay, we get an application. This is what happens. This is what happens. And if the state involved, this is what happens. Have everybody who's involved in the process speak to what they do in that process. Because
kind of like planning 101, and we can all do that.
yes,
This is how it works.
do a planning 101 session.
Do you think the port would come and say, this is our place in this?
I-
Do you think they would participate in it? Well, you don't have to answer it,
You know,
but it's
I would love
it's
for
a rhetorical question.
Okay. I would love for Jacob to be there to say, I'm the engineer, and it's from an engine. The business deal is separate, and my guess is they don't want to share that. At least the staff doesn't want to. But what does the port do? This is their biggest economic driver they've had in forever, really. And what's their role? They sell real estate and they deliver water and wastewater services.
That's how they sustain themselves, is selling.
Water and wastewater. Yeah, that's exactly right. And they're not looking, they haven't asked, as far as I know, forever for new water rights. I think they'd love to have more that come out of the Columbia, but nobody's getting new water rights out of the Columbia. Yeah,
Nobody in Oregon's getting more water.
that's right. Yeah.
Before you break up, I was gonna ask you real quick, and I'm just you mentioned on Dan Doran, he was on that committee.
Mm-hmm.
Did anything substantial come out of that in the future? You might have mentioned
Data
that.
center advisory, still ongoing.
They're
It's on
going,
now. It's still going with-
they're supposed to be finished. I think in September, they deliver a report to the governor.
I was thinking to wrap that up.
Yeah, and they've only had 3. The meeting in the month of May is all about power, so that you'll probably really be interested or probably know all about that. Then I don't know what all those other things are.
And I think June is taxes.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. And then what's next? I don't know.
I think that's it.
I can pull that up here.
And then I think August they deliberate, and then September or maybe
Have
September
a
they
draft report, something like that.
By October they're supposed to have this is what we're delivering to the governor for consideration
See what that. Mm-hmm.
to do with.
Part of me kind of wishes that we could wait till these guys are done, because they're doing, I think, a really robust job of covering a lot of topics. Yeah. So May is energy. June is data centers, affordability, and taxation, and July is review and refine the final report. So August, September, they'll present it to.
Next week, they're meeting in Hermiston.
Oh, you're going to meet in Hermiston in May?
So
Oh, it says here to be determined. So, okay, that'd be for the energy stuff. Oh,
and it might be good just to have some information out there for people to follow on. I mean, it's definitely impacting our county.
I mean, we could wait until August when we see at least the preliminary report that's been completed here, and we can reference, unless you think it's more time sensitive. We need to get out there sooner. I'm not feeling that need, but if y'all are, we'll make it happen.
I would rather shoot for sooner, but if we don't get to that point, I will not be overly.
But I do think, I sound like a broken record, but I share with people, these concerns are not unique to Morrow County. You know, there's all kinds of policy and other issues that people are talking about statewide.
Well, is it some states are shutting down all data centers together, or is it some county?
Some counties, we
There
have,
was one state in the northeast corner that did.
I was thinking that was one now.
Yeah.
It's not
So
Michigan.
Counties have,
Or something.
and
Mhm.
I think there are quite a few states where there are ballot initiatives,
Oh,
and that's spreading pretty fast.
And they're using data centers in order to spread that information.
Yes.
Maine passed a temporary moratorium.
Okay.
Georgia proposed legislation. Michigan proposed a bill to temporarily stop new data centers.
Oregon
Maryland,
technically did.
who did?
Not us.
Oregon, yep, we did.
West side.
On the west side, yeah.
But it
New
was
Hampshire,
proposed
New York,
both.
Oklahoma, Vermont, South Dakota have introduced legislation for temporary bans or studies on the impacts. In Minnesota, they're discussing a 2-year pause. But those are all in cities. And even that study that I think I shared where they interviewed me a couple of times out of University of Michigan, it was a professor she was in the planning school, and it was a really good study, but it's all focused on urban areas. And I said, oh, and there's a lot more negative in an urban area. People don't want to live next to them. They're, creating more demand on limited water supplies, and it's different out here. That's why I had to kind of interrupt at the end of the land use session before I signed off to say, please remember that this is both an urban and a rural issue, and the issues are very different, and there's opportunities for both areas. And I
That
think
was
we're
kind of you to not say one of these is better than the other.
well, and I said I appreciate again the state's support and respecting, some local control and finding some local solutions. But anyway, so yeah, there are some.
So the ones in the urban, they'd rather have a distribution center next to their house or a factory or.
Yeah, same day delivery through Amazon.
I would love to have
Well,
something.
I think we're pretty fortunate.
Same day delivery.
Yeah, I think we're fortunate in Morrow County that most of that Port Industrial Park is on the north side of the freeway. And except for the new multifamily housing, it's not next to residences.
Yeah.
And then you have the stuff at the airport. I think that's, I can't take any credit for it. Maybe Dean Seeger and maybe the people way before us and the original Port Commission who got 6,000 acres of industrial land along the Columbia. That's perfect. Not everybody has that because you have industrial land and residential with like maybe your road as a buffer, and that's not ideal. I think we're pretty lucky to keep moving forward here.
Commission, just want to say thank you for allowing us to take this time. I think it was well spent to give Tamara and I some direction on it. I think we have some options we can move forward to, and just that with you before we get things planned. I'm feeling much more comfortable proceeding with this.
Yeah, me too. And we will definitely take our time because we want to just have a really well orchestrated presentation with the team. It's going to take the whole team.
Good. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Still to be adjourned.
Thanks. Any other business come before this work session?
I thought